Hi, welcome to Lockdown Kitchen. I'm Brian Davis, the amateur cook with time on his hands. Okay, I've been out this morning to buy some beef. This is some Brazilian chuck beef, which I normally buy for Wolf. I mince it up and I feed him a combination of dry food and raw beef. And this is Brazilian fillet, right, which I need to trim. I buy these from a wholesaler. I buy this for around 20 dirhams a kilo and I get fillet for 50 dirhams a kilo. Kind of half the price you'd buy in the supermarket, but you do have to trim it up, which I'm going to do now. For the burgers, I'm going to use the beef fillet, but I also thought let me try with the chuck beef as well and see what the difference is, because I'm going to add some belly pork to the fillet beef to give it a bit of fat and taste. So I'll be trimming the skin off this and mincing it with my new mincer, which I've just got off Amazon. It's a G-Pass stainless steel mincer. There's a link down below. I'm not an affiliate with Amazon, but it was a pretty good deal. I like Indian appliances. I'm not sure if this was made in India because it just says researched and developed and designed by G-Pass, but you know, Indian women cook at home a lot. They use grinders a lot, so I'm thinking this is going to be a pretty heavy duty. But anyway, there's a link in below if you want to see. Well, I'm not going to use the whole thing. I buy a fillet and then I cut some into steaks, and then the trimmings and stuff I use for kebabs or hamburger or that sort of stuff. You can see there, I've washed the beef and just dried it off, and now it's got to be trimmed up. Before I cut it into steaks, which I'll freeze. In a later video I'll show you how I marinate my fillet steaks, and then all the trimmings I'll trim up a bit, and that's what we'll use to mince to make the burgers. But firstly I've got to sharpen my knife. I have this great little knife sharpener in several goes. It's called Any Sharp. It's supposed to be the world's best knife sharpener. Coming off, and then you just lift it off and you can take it off. Easy as that. Okay, now we'll start trimming up the piece of meat. Get these little tails off there. Come round, let's go through there. Right. Okay, I'm going to slice through there. I'll use that for my hamburger. I'll trim that up later. That can go through. Of course, my dog is now sniffing around when I've got meat out. So there, you see, we can just trim off a bit of that. It's fine. There. Okay, and that's the first of my steaks. There we go. Some nice steaks coming out again. Trim. Take that off there. So you can see, we can get hamburgers, we can get kebabs, and we get steaks. Put the fat on there, I'm going to use that for the burgers. There you go, Wolf. He was happy with that piece. What I normally do with the steaks is I make a marinade, and I'll probably do a video in the next day or so, and then I marinate them, and then I freeze them in the marinade. So when I want to do a barbecue, I take them out, let them defrost, and they're ready to go. So there we are. I've got a nice selection of steaks, and then I've got what I'm going to use for the hamburgers, and that's going to go for Wolf's treats. I'll be back in a minute when we'll just look at the chuck beef, get that ready, and I'll show you that. Okay, so you can see the piece of chuck. It's looks nowhere near as nice as the fillet did, but in dog speak, it's beautiful. Wolf's just standing over there looking at this. So what I'm going to do, I want to try to compare the fillet and pork belly burgers with chuck and pork belly burgers, and see if it's really worth the money to pay extra for the fillet. It should be. I mean, I wouldn't make steak out of this, right? So let's see, once we've minced it up, seasoned it, and mix it with the pork belly, what it comes out like. So what I'll do now, I'll just take off some nice chunks, which I'm going to use to grind or make mince for the hamburger, and the rest will get minced up for Wolf, for his food for the next few weeks. Again, this was chilled, not frozen, so I can, once I've got it all ready, I can just freeze it. The mince that I make for my dog's food, I can just freeze. These are the sort of pieces you want for the hamburger. Just like that, chunks like that. Once I've got this ready, I've then got to chop all the meat back up into smaller chunks to put through the grinder. I have never seen my dog sit so patiently and so quiet. He's just sitting over there, just watching my every move. So I can be quite rough with this because I didn't buy this to make hamburger. I bought this to feed Wolf. This grinder that I've just bought apparently does 1 kilo a minute. Am I glad about that? That means I can have all this processed when I get going quite fast. You can see the chuck beef, it's quite grainy. When I saw I was cutting the fillet, it was much finer meat, finer texture. I think I've got enough for hamburger, so I'll just crack on with this now. Okay, chop down. Okay, that's kind of done now and ready. I've got enough to make up 1 kilo of hamburger. Okay, I've just finished grinding up all of the chuck beef for the dog meat. Before I start grinding up the fillet and the chuck for the hamburgers, I'm just going to prepare the belly pork that I'm going to mince or grind as well. As I'm going to mince this or grind it, I don't want the skin on there, so I'm going to take the skin off. I'm not going to throw it away. We can actually make some pork crackling with this. Choose a piece of belly pork that's quite meaty, and we're not looking to just put pure fat. That's what, now we're just left with the soft fat. If you don't want to use pork, what you can use in place is a fatty piece of lamb. What I'm trying to do with the fillet steak in particular is, because it hasn't got much fat, it's quite lean, is give it a bit of fat in there. And when I grind this, I'm going to grind it very fine. The steaks, as you'll see, I'll grind quite coarse because I want that meaty texture when you bite into the hamburger. Whereas with the pork, I want the fat to dissolve and infuse into the burger. So there's my belly pork ready for mincing. Okay, this is going to get quite noisy. We're going to grind up the chuck first because I've still got the remnants of the chuck from the dog food in. Okay, so that's the rest of the chuck done that we're going to use for the hamburger mix. I'll now start with the fillet, and what I'll do, I won't clean out the grinder, I'll just feed this in and then I'll take what comes out and put it in the bowl of chuck. That's the fillet done. Still some fillet in there. I'll do a quick coarse grind on the pork now before I then change over the mincing head and give it a fine grind. Okay, there we go. I'll just change the head and we'll be back to the fine grind. You can see all the pork's a much different colour because of all that fat inside it. Okay, now we'll just grind the pork again with the fine. There we are, you can see much finer. So when that's in, I'm only going to put 20% of the belly pork in, and that's really fine. So when we grill the burger, it's going to render down, and all that flavour from the fat is, I hope, because it's the first time I've used this method, is going to go through the burger. Okay, I've got all the meat weighed out. I'm making 1 kilo of hamburger in each. This is the chuck. This is the fillet. I'm seasoning them exactly the same. 2 tablespoons Worcestershire sauce. Then here I've got a teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of black pepper, teaspoon of smoked paprika, and half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. If you want not so spicy, just put half a spoon of paprika and forget the cayenne. So that goes in. That goes in there. So I'm just gonna mix those up. So in each one there's 800 grams of beef, 200 grams of the finely minced pork belly. I put this out as well. I'm not going to use it today. I use it sometimes when I do marinades and things. It's liquid smoke. If you want a smoky flavour to your burgers, and you're not going to put them on a charcoal grill and put chips, just 2 teaspoons of that per kilo of meat does wonders. I use it a lot in marinades to give a nice smoky flavour on chicken, on steak. I've put the hamburger mix into bags. I'm going to leave them overnight in the fridge just for all the flavours to infuse, and then tomorrow I'm going to cook them up, and we'll see, is it worth the extra money for a fillet hamburger versus a chuck hamburger. Okay, I'm going to make the hamburger patties now. You'll notice we've actually got 4 packs. We've got 4 different flavours. I originally was just going to do the fillet versus the chuck with the seasoning that I'd used, that you saw earlier, but then I decided to split it into 2 500 gram packs, and I added fresh garlic and the liquid smoke, 1 teaspoon to half a kilo, to see what the difference in taste will be like. And I did the same for the chuck. So what I'm going to do now is make the patties. These are each half a kilo, so we should get 4 125 gram patties out. That's approximately 5 ounces. I've got this great little press here, which makes making the patties so easy. So we'll start with our smoked and garlic. So all I've got to do, I can smell the liquid smoke and I can smell the garlic. So I just weigh out that, and then these little discs there. I use this press for making hamburgers. You can make all sorts of burgers with it. I'm going to make some tuna burgers, fresh tuna burgers later this week. I can also make frozen dog food for my dog this way by making 100 gram patties, then just freezing them. So we'll put that in there, just press down a bit. That goes over, press, firm till the meat comes out a little bit. There we go. And there we've got a nice hamburger patty. Last one's 140 grams. I must have just had a little bit over on my weight when I made the mix. 4 burgers ready to go on the grill. So I'll just leave that there so I don't forget what it is. Now we'll do the chuck. So there we go, 16 hopefully very delicious burgers. Okay, we've got a nice hot grill, you can see that there now. We're going to cook 1 each of the burgers. So this is the straight fillet one going on now. And we've got the smoky fillet, the chuck, and the smoky chuck. Give them a little spray on top. There we go. Close that down. And we're going to need about 5 minutes. They should be done perfectly. We're at 2.5 minutes, so we'll have a quick peek. Oh yes, nice colour on the burgers. You can see they're juicy. You can see some of that pork fat coming out. Okay, we're on the last minute now. Yeah. Oh, they smell amazing. So that's the 5 minutes. Nice, they look delicious, they smell delicious. They're nice and juicy. Now we'll just leave them for a few minutes, just to let the meat relax and the juices go back inside, and then we'll do the taste test. Hi, now time for the taste. I'm going to start with the fillet steak one. Nice. Nice and juicy. Now I'm going to go with the fillet with the smoking. Recommend the liquid smoke. Definitely gives it a nice barbecue type flavour. Now with the chuck. Different texture, but still a nice, sorry. Different texture, but still a nice flavour there. So, and finally chuck with smoking garlic. Yep, adding garlic and liquid smoke, definitely a winner. As for the two beefs, yes, the fillet does taste slightly better, but it's not worth 2.5 times the price. So for me, the chuck steak's the winner. If you want to make some special burgers for a special occasion, use fillet steak. If not, go with chuck steak. My name's Brian Davis, the amateur cook with time on his hands. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Which one do you like